Never get it. Oh, there, see, I can never get it.
That's a problem with live.
Oh my gosh. Hello, everyone. So happy Wednesday, but in full disclosure, Ashley and I are here on a Tuesday morning. This is Ashley Gravano, which so many of you already know who she is. So we are pre-recording this. So even though you're jumping in on the comments, which we want you to engage and comment so that Ashley and I can go back in and respond, I just wanted to let you know that this is pre-recorded because I will be out of town or driving out of town on Wednesday. And Ashley also, under the circumstances she's in, what she will share with us, pre-recording was the best option, I believe. So it all worked out in the end. So welcome, Ashley.
Hi, how are you? Thanks so much for having me. Super excited.
Yes. So this is particularly a very special episode, I believe, because this is the first time that you're kind of coming out, kind of sharing what's been going on
Yeah.
in your world. I know a lot of people have noticed that you have been somewhat absent from LinkedIn, especially because this is
Right?
different platforms. But when it comes to
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I know that you've been really missed. I feel very blessed to be part of a group of women that have kind of, been privy to what's been going on. But I know a lot of
Yeah.
people have no clue and they just know that Ashley was kind of MIA.
Yeah. I was
So,
not on an island somewhere, although I wish I was. I was not in Bermuda hanging out on the beach. About 10 weeks ago, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and took about 20 steps back to kind of deal with that. So, and my voice, obviously, as you guys can tell, is still a little raspy. It's better today. Last week it was full-fledged, 80-year-old smoker pack a day. So, going out in public and talking to people, it's like, you're like whispering in their ear, telling the
yeah,
waitress come a little closer because you can't hear me. So, yeah. So I've been away a bit, and like you said, you are part of this awesome circle of women in the industry, and there's so many of them that have just been amazing over the last 10 weeks. So I just felt like, that 4 week mark, it was a good time to come out and just like, this is where I've been and this is, my story. Usually pretty private with health related things. I've gone through some things over the years, but um, for some reason, this like spoke to me to say, okay, come out and just let everyone know, not just like, I'm back, but where I've been and what I've been doing. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I also imagine you probably have had so many people reaching out to you, and there probably comes a point where it's a little overwhelming having to
Yeah.
respond to everyone. So I figure this is a good way just to kind of let everyone
Yeah. Yeah. All in one shot. Just get it
know.
all done and over with. Yeah.
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 So I'm sure there's a lot of people, because it's very usual for when something like this happens, like, how did you know? What were the symptoms? Because I think this is also a great way to inform others because typical,
Mhm.
just like with any other cancers, right? It's like you want to bring that awareness. And so I feel like if you can share how it came about, then maybe there are people out there that might have the same symptoms. You just never know. And you might be helping them to.
Yeah, totally. So, I was feeling a little more tired than usual. I mean, it was a couple weeks after the San Diego MBA. So, the time change and, getting back into the conference thing, because I think San Diego is probably the first big trip since COVID, right? So I was like, gosh, I
Yes.
was just a little more tired. I had some like pressure in my throat, and I was like, maybe it's my allergies, East Coast allergies, you know how that goes. A little bit of pressure. And when I was talking, it felt kind of like someone was like literally pushing me as I'm pushing it, like, pushing me right like against the one side of my throat. And I was like, it's probably nothing. And, for a couple weeks, just took the Zyrtec and the over the counter stuff. Um, and then it just happened to be, second week of December in for just an annual checkup
Mm,
with one of my other doctors. And I just, I was like, I just haven't been feeling right. Like I've had this pressure, my voice feels strained. Um, and then, she did the whole neck thing. She's like, oh, I feel something here. I'm like, ah,
yeah.
whatever, it's allergies. It's, that's always the way your nodules are swollen, things like that. So she's like, let's just be safe and send you for an ultrasound. Um, And I thought that was just going to be another, check the box, have your
Yeah.
ultrasound, everything's fine. Then during the ultrasound, they're like, well, there's some things. So let's send you to another doctor. And then that doctor was like, well, these are normal. You have some nodules. They're normal. There's probably people everywhere that have a nodule, and it's no big deal. Let's send you for a biopsy. And then I was like, And the nerves started a little bit. And I'm like, oh, biopsy, that sounds fun. I'm like, what does that entail? You're going to put me to sleep? Because I'm really not a fan of needles. And they're like, no, you're awake. I'm like, oh. So I had this really not fun biopsy.
They
Like,
literally stick
yeah,
on your neck.
yeah,
Oh.
you're like wide awake. And
Oh.
it's not one needle. It's like four at like just some digging and
That's why I have this mug, Wonder Woman, in honor of Ashley because
yeah,
like
thanks.
Wonder Woman staff
Right.
right there.
So I was like, okay, this hurts a bit. So I had like this big band-aid and it was like all bruised from the digging. Um, and then the doctor called about 7 days later and said that they needed to do some more testing. And then instantly I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not good. So, and then found out a week after that that it was actually thyroid cancer. So I lost my father 7 years ago to cancer, two grandfathers, and two of my aunts. So that instantly just knocked me down, and I was beyond emotional. Um,
As you should be.
right, because I was like, okay, my dad actually had his thyroid removed at 52, and I'm 42.
Oh wow.
So, like, wow, I'm pretty young for that. And then you get the, oh my gosh, I'm young. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
You know. Um, so I didn't tell anybody for 2 weeks, not even my mom, my best
Really?
friend. I didn't tell my kids.
That's a lot, Ashley,
Yeah,
to take
yeah,
on.
because I'm very much like, I need to know what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, what the next steps are. So I was like, I'm just going to keep this to myself because I didn't want anyone to be worried. Or my mom is an Italian Catholic mother from New York. So she is very, like, she hovers. And
Yeah.
I was like, she's going to freak out. So um, I waited till I got to the surgeon and talked to the surgeon before I started to open up to my close knit circle. So, and you guys obviously were part of that. So, and then the surgeon went through the steps, and here I am. It's almost 5 weeks. It'll be 5 weeks Wednesday since the surgery.
So did
So,
they remove the thyroid, but the cancer, like, so the cancer is with the, like, I'm always,
yeah. So basically, I had like two large nodules on the right side, and they this is the best case, they were able to keep half of my thyroid, so I don't have to be on medication. Um, they took out half the thyroid, they have half in, and as of now, no treatment. I go every, 30, 60, 90 days for the first, 90 days. I have to pretty much go for blood work, and they have to check to make sure the thyroid's able to function and that my calcium levels are okay. There's all this stuff tied to your thyroid that you really don't think about.
yeah,
Um, like your weight, and I'm a gym rat, so I was like, oh my gosh, like how is this going to affect my energy? Um, and your body temperature and your calcium. Like they're like, okay, there's all these things that we have to worry about over the next 90 days. Um, and as long as things are fine at day 90, then I go to a year and I'll get yearly scans and ultrasounds to make sure that nothing grew on the other side. So best case, right? I mean, I didn't need chemo. I didn't need radiation. I was supposed to have a radioactive iodine treatment that she's paused on until she goes through the blood work. So best
wow.
case for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, you say best case, but I had read the post that you had
Mm.
made. Was it last week, 2 weeks ago?
Last week, the four
Last
week mark.
week,
Yeah.
actually came out and said that you had it. And it was interesting because you said in there where, as someone that now is a cancer,
Right.
someone who has now suffered from cancer, you made a comment where a lot of people are like, oh, but it's the thyroid best case, like kind of
Hmm.
dismissing it in a
Yeah.
way where it really struck me
Hmm.
because you made it, you also said like everybody deals with it in their own way. It's still a serious thing when someone
Right.
says you cancer. So, like, how is that when people are quick to kind of be like, oh, out of all the cancers, that's like the easiest one, or don't, oh,
Yeah,
like how, like, I'm curious, like, how does that affect you?
it's awful. I mean, I heard, "Oh, it's just your thyroid." And I'm talking like some pretty close-knit friends, or I wouldn't say close-knit, but it's just your thyroid. It's the best cancer to have. It's no big
What
deal. The
is that?
surge
It's the best cancer to
like,
have.
of all the cancers to have in the world, like,
You are
you
so
know,
lucky, Ashley.
yay, like, do I get a trophy that's like
It's
number
like you
1
have the best
cancer?
cancer.
Right. The
Sorry.
best cancer. No, I mean, I can laugh about it now, but, um, don't ever say that to anybody. I don't care if it's skin cancer on your face, right? I mean, cancer is cancer and it happens. And for me, obviously, because of the amount of loss that I've had related to cancer, maybe if I hadn't had experiences in it, or, you know, I'll go back to the story about my dad. So I have two kids, 23. My son Joey's 23, and my younger son Alessio is 14. And Joey's was very close to Giuseppe Joey. He was very close to my dad. Um, like he saw my dad 7 days a week, and my dad was very involved. And I told the kids at the same time together. My son's engaged, so his girlfriend was here. And I remember calling him and said, "Hey, could you come over tonight? Because he doesn't live home." And he's like, "Why?" I was like, "Well, I just want to talk to you and your brother in person." And he's like, "No, no, just tell me over the phone." I'm like, "I'm not telling you over the phone. Just come over." So he comes in and I, sit them down. I'm like, "Listen, I had some tests done, and here's what's happened. Like, I have thyroid cancer." And my older son was like, "That's what Pop Up had." And look what happened to Pop Up, right?
Oh,
Because although my dad had thyroid cancer, it came back in a different form less than 10 years later. And he passed away a very not, no death is easy, but he passed away and very painful, and it wasn't great to watch. So my son is like, that's what Pop had. That's how Pop
really?
started.
Oh,
So it was like instant tears, and he, walks out of the house and he's all upset. And, so for someone to say, like, it's just your thyroid, or it's the best cancer to have, I know that there's really nothing good you can say when you're telling someone that you have cancer, but to be to minimize it and not really think about how someone that's going through it takes it, it's hard. I mean,
yeah.
like I said, I'd heard everything from it's the best thing to have. It's just your thyroid. Oh, you'll be fine. Right. I mean, you want to think that you'll be fine, but you don't know, right? I mean,
Yeah. There's that
I've had
fine line of positivity, right? Like,
right.
also kind of like the reality of things and letting someone sit in that moment and what is happening, because you are someone that I'm sure from people outside looking in is very positive, like just from what I've seen, like even before you and I actually spoke on the phone and connected, right? Like we were
Yeah.
on LinkedIn and just seeing your videos, and like and as soon as we got on the phone, there was like that, we were like soul
Yeah.
sisters.
Yeah.
um, so I can only imagine how you just try to be as positive as you possibly can, but there also is that of like, hey, you know what? I also have to face the fact that, like, this
Yeah.
is a big deal. So it's like, how do you balance that?
Yeah. I mean, the first 10 days, there was no balance. I would say 10 days, maybe a little, maybe 2 weeks. The first 2 weeks, there was no balance of it's going to be fine, right? I mean, it was, what if something happens? What if the surgery goes wrong? What if they take my whole thyroid and I have to go on all this medication, and every what if you can think of? And then through my circle, you, Delilah, Molly, and I could name everybody, really just thinking about, okay, I have the support system. I have good friends and family around me that, really started to talk about the positive things. And I have some friends that dropped off some books, and I have, started getting flowers and just notes from everyone about, staying positive, kind of like shook me back, like, okay, you have to think about, if you're constantly thinking about all the bad things, then it's just going to manifest itself. And, stress on your body is not great. So, that if you're not feeling well and you're stressed out and you're overthinking, and then it's just bringing you down completely. So, um, born and raised Italian Catholic, and I posted about this too, right, or a week before I posted about the cancer itself, about I also, follow the kind of spiritual stuff. So like the beads and the
Yeah.
crystals and the book The Secret, and there's all these different things. So I'm like, okay, let me lean into that. So I went to and had a Reiki session, for anyone who does that. And I have some spiritual friends in my life that reminded me about thinking about all the positive things. And also, this forced me to slow down. It forced me to think about things that I need to get done and things that I've been putting off. So it forced me to think about, okay, you've got all of these things that you have to look forward to. Um, and I focused more on that after that 2 weeks of what anyone would go through, the woe is me, I have cancer, oh my God, which is allowed, and lots of tears and lots of, phone calls of like uncontrollable crying with friends that couldn't understand me because, you're scared. I mean, it's natural. So then I started to get back into, okay, let me start getting back into the gym. Let me stay active. Let me get off the couch and stop watching reruns of Schitt's Creek, because
Oh, but that's so good.
I mean, like, it's a great show just to kind of, if
Yeah.
you doze off, it's okay. You can kind of pick it up and it's just a funny, so like just get up and stop dwelling on the really bad thing that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, right? I mean, I had 5 weeks of waiting for the surgery, so that I allowed myself the time to just wallow in pity that I'm of cancer, right? I mean, you have to allow the feelings, and you have to just give into them, I think, but then get up and just keep going. So I spent, the few weeks leading up to the surgery really honing in on the spiritual part of it, the healing crystals, going to Reiki, getting out in nature, talking to friends. I even was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to eat really crappy food or drink for a few weeks. So like the 3 days before surgery, I had like a bucket list of food. I was like, okay, I went into Philly and I had, a cheesesteak. So I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to eat a cheesesteak for a couple weeks. I went to like a local distillery that I like. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a couple of drinks here. So I spent a few days leading up to it to like, all right, I'm gonna eat what I want to eat.
Yeah.
And then went out with a couple friends before because I knew I would kind of be down for the
Yeah.
count for a few weeks, not able to drive. So the balance of it was okay. And I think this is with anything, and we can tie this to the industry because, I've been in the industry since 99. So I
Mhm.
went through the 2008 where things were really bad, right? They dissolved my department. I got moved into operations. I'm not an ops person. I'm relationships and
Yeah.
sales and people.
I'm with you.
I had no choice because they disabled the sales team. So I think like that, for people who are in this refi, like, oh my God, I have so many refis, I can't keep up. You have to allow yourself to like, okay, things are going to change, whether not medical, right? There, it's not the same, but allow yourself to think about that and then build the next steps of what you're going to do, right? So, like I said, I was like, all right, I'm going to be down for the count for 3, 4 weeks. What needs to be done before the surgery? Housework, work stuff, getting my projects online, having my team and internally a cadence to kind of take things over. Same can be with anything in life, right? Like if you've got this major change or major hiccup or thing that you're going to go through, um, allow yourself to feel the feelings and then take care of what needs to be done, and change and pivot. Um, so I think that's with anything, not just, personal business too.
Yeah.
Feel it and then what are you going to do about it, and have that positive mindset of okay, from a work standpoint, if things are going to shift, what can I do differently? um Even Delilah posted about this last week on her taco video about the loan officers or the managers, branch managers who have been so busy they haven't been able to stay in contact with some of their referral partners. So now's the time to get back into the pattern and get back out there and do things that you haven't been doing. So the cancer scare and the surgery also gave me the positive of like, yes, I know. My God, the saying that I heard 100 times, it could be worse. It could have been worse.
Yeah.
It could have been we're taking your whole thyroid. It could have been chemo.
Always
It
do
could
work.
have been, yeah,
I mean,
I could have had that. So it could have been worse. It's not. So now get back into, how I'm going to move forward and how my story is going to help other people. Like you said in the beginning, I wasn't going to talk about it. I was just going to kind of bounce back in and just pretend things were fine. But I just felt the need to talk about it for myself and I think for other people that follow me as well. So,
No, I mean, that's the thing is I love that you just spoke about like your process because you did it in a very healthy way where you allowed yourself to feel the emotions, allow yourself to wallow in your self-pity, which is normal, like you should.
right.
I mean, that's big. And then to go ahead, step back and realize like, okay, now what steps? And I love that you talked about, your spirituality and so forth, because I do believe a lot about manifestation and about what your
Mhm.
thoughts are and how what you put out there you're attracting and everything. So I love that you went through it in a way that just it seems healthy, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and not only that, like you just said, sharing your story, it's interesting how so many of us go through something really big and we don't think about it being really part of our story and our journey, right? Like, so this
Yeah.
is going to be something that you never know about. You might be speaking on behalf of, thyroid cancer. Now you
Yeah.
have a connection to it in a way where you might be that person that's spearheading a campaign, right?
Right. Right.
Raise money. You just never know where it's going to lead you. And I think there's a beauty in that, especially being the person that you are, right? Because there are so many people that are put in situations where people are like, I can't believe that's happening to that person.
Right.
I can't believe they're experiencing that. Like, and sometimes it's the right people and just
Yeah.
experiencing certain things. And obviously, not once again, not to diminish what you're
Yeah. No.
through, but at the same time, like it's going to be your superpower. Once again, Wonder Woman,
Yeah.
like I really do feel like this is going to be something that I like none of us can really even imagine right now how it's going to be for you in the future. But I really do feel like this is going to be a big part of your story and you're going to help others. Yeah, you just, and even in the industry, who's to say, like, this is what I love about the mortgage industry is that
Yeah.
we're in this industry where we have the ability to support things
Mhm.
outside of us to be able to give money back because let's be real, there's a lot of money that's made in this
Yeah.
industry too,
Right.
like you're the companies, so just being able to support so many causes, like who's to say that maybe even your company or somebody hears your story and then suddenly that they want to go ahead and support, and I don't know, I think
Yeah.
there's so many good things that can come from this.
Yeah. And it's funny because the first time I was out, you know, my girl circle, like you guys, I love you guys. You guys have been amazing between you sent me the magnolia tree, which, it's funny because the magnolia tree has this story of resilience and strength. And I got lots of flowers from people and, coffee gift cards because everyone knows my coffee is my thing. And it was great because, can't go a day without it. And like, it's like this nope, nope, cancer, nope, not a day without cancer, right?
Yeah.
Or coffee and things like that. But my first outing was the New Jersey Bankers Association because I'm on the board of directors there. And I had a speaking engagement because I usually do the social media panel. But at that point, it was less than 3 weeks after the surgery, and there was just no chance that I was going to be able to speak. So I had to like give up my part of the panel and I let Bianca and Joe do their thing. And it was hard for me because I'm a control freak. I have to have like my hands in it and do it and touch it. But I, again, like that balance of like allowing myself to say, okay, it's not the end of the world. It's one speaking engagement. The board of directors and all of my friends on the board, Matt and Taylor and Bob Levy, those guys were great about it. They were like, listen, we understand that you would do it if you could. But I just was like, I have to just let this go. And that let it go has been huge over the last 10 weeks. I have the book here. A friend of mine bought this over to me, let that stuff go. We'll say stuff.
Like
Which
I
is
said.
like, yeah, that's fine. It's a journal of just like, it, there's all these pages and I let it go and just was like, I can't focus on that. I was super self-conscious about the scar And the first day, like, it's not too bad, but it was pretty wicked. So the first day I had a scarf, and it was probably the hottest day in Jersey in like 6 months. So I'm in the hall with the scarf, and I'm like,
It was like,
oh
wow,
my
she's trying to be such a trendsetter.
God, I was like, oh my God, I'm so
Fashion
hot.
statement.
Yeah. So I was like, fuck it, just let it go. I like took it
Yeah,
off and whatever. But um, I was just like, it is what it is. So um, I think with anything, like we've been talking about, it's really just finding the positive in really crappy situations. Um, like I said, it made me slow down. It made me reprioritize some things. I mean, even down to like thinking about who's going to be in my circle, what I
mhm.
want to do for a living. Like, those type of things really make you think when something, hits you like that. So, and just listening to yourself and your thoughts. I think we just all get stuck in this rat race of like, we've got to originate loans and we've got to close deals and not slowing down and thinking about um, things is just easy to do when we're busy. So
Wow. I mean, that's, I'm like sitting here and I already have such a huge amount of respect for you, but
thank
just
you.
to this, my love, we have levels of respect are just skyrocketing.
Thanks.
More for you because you really handled it with such grace. You really have. And I know that you've had, like you said, a lot of people reach out and be such a huge support system.
Hmm.
And I think that's key, right? Where you
Hmm.
realize the positive people and the negative people in your life that maybe you're like, you know,
Yeah.
maybe this is my time to kind of question who I'm surrounding myself with. It's kind of that moment of inventory, if you will, take
Yeah.
inventory. And I think that's really important because it does make a huge difference. You said
Yeah.
you had, Delilah and all these other women and men like really talk about the positive that can come out of this. And that's important because you could be in a circle of people they're all like Debbie Downers and they're all
Yeah. It's hard.
they could have been like, oh my gosh, Ashley, this is the
Yeah.
worst thing that could ever happen in your entire life. Like you're doomed forever. Like
Right.
there could have been that thinking and that wouldn't have helped either. So
Yeah.
it does, have you realize like, okay, you know what? These are the people that I need to remain in my circle so that if something does happen again, I have that good support system because let's be honest, it's life. Shit's going to happen all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like even in the business world, we all really have to think about that because this personal situation really showed me on the business and the personal side who is supportive and who isn't. I mean, my CEO Pete and my boss Joe, I mean, the support was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I couldn't even ask for anything better.
That's huge to be in
I
a
mean, you
company
have to have that,
support.
right? I mean, it was like my doctor signed me out for 6 weeks. I'm like, that's not happening. I'm not staying out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So I just, logged in and I was able to get on calls and just chat because I couldn't talk hardly at all the first 10 days. Um, but my friend circle, my business circle, I mean, when you're going through anything in life, business or personal, again, when you're talking about manifesting the positivity and my friend Kelsey over at Max came over and brought these beats that, and went through like you have to surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up and who are going to keep you, when you're weak at the knees, keep you standing. So, and that's business and personal.
Yeah.
Um, because otherwise you're just going to find yourself in this like with this black cloud kind of hovering over you. So we should all really take inventory. Um, like even with the job market stuff too, right? And there's going to be some change.
Yeah.
Who can you go to and say like, "Hey, I'm having a hard time," or "Hey, I want to change fields." And the mortgage industry is really great with family. I've always said that it's just a real strong. And you left and came back, right?
I know. I
Like,
was about to say, obviously, there's a way they suck
right,
you back in because it is true.
right. I didn't go to school to be a mortgage. I mean, I started in the mailroom at 19 at a
Wow.
mortgage company, and here I am. And my current boss is one of the reasons I'm there. One of my good friends is, I have lots of mentors in the industry. Um, and there's an old Italian saying, it sounds so much better in Italian, and I can't say it in Italian, which I wish I could, but it's then translated to if you lie with dogs, you'll catch fleas.
Oh, wow.
So then it sounds like I said so much better in Italian. Let's look it up and we'll type it in the comments. But you have to surround yourself with people who are good for your soul and good for your mind and will support you no matter what you do. And um, just continue to keep you going because you can't surround yourself with the people who are like, "Ah, she's fine." Like I have
Yeah.
lots of people that I've known since grade school that haven't even called or text, and I obviously did a much different, more personal post on Facebook.
Mhm.
So, and haven't heard from so many of those people, so they're kind of like, "Okay, checked off."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's also kind of like it's rough too, right? Like
Yeah.
when you go through those big things, like,
Yeah.
divorce, you kind of figure out who your friends are and aren't,
Right.
all those things. But once again, I think it's just a way of like that cleanse,
Yeah.
actual, kind of cleanse through life. And, because it is a cycle, right? I mean, it's
Right.
phases. And so this is that phase that's, you know, kind
Mhm.
of teaching you certain lessons because I'm sure you're
Yeah.
learning a lot as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you're just gonna get be stronger. You're already a kick ass, but you're even
Yeah.
more kick ass.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
I just think that you're incredible, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with me and everybody else.
Yeah.
I feel honored that this is kind of like your first
This
like,
is my first time back out. Yeah, and I'm glad it's with you, that's for sure. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't ask for more support from you guys. It's really been helpful for sure.
Yeah, and know that, like, because I know that there's a lot of people, kind of like myself, where we get kind of caught up in our worlds and we get so busy. But like, I also know that I'm the type of person where if you don't talk to me, but I'm a good friend, and you call me and say I need you to drive 5 hours to Jersey to help, I will do
Yeah,
that. Like,
I got
just
lots
know
of
that
room for you.
I suck at like communication
Yeah,
sometimes. Like, I'm not that person that's like texting or calling, but
right.
do know that if you called me and said I need you, like I'd be like, or I need the, I would do it. And I think there's a lot of us out there that are kind of that personality. So,
Yeah, yeah,
uh, and that's key too, right?
yeah, totally, totally.
I know,
Yeah,
because it can be tough. Like we all get very self-absorbed and caught up in our worlds too. But at the same
yeah,
time, nothing. It takes 2 seconds to write a text, 2 seconds to call, just anything, just to say, "Hey, thinking of you," right? Like that's
yeah,
important too. Just
yeah,
that
totally.
simplicity. Yeah.
It certainly has
But
helped.
yeah, well, if anybody, obviously, like I said, this was pre-recorded, so there might
Mhm.
be some of you that are commenting while we're sitting here speaking, and you're like, why are they ignoring us? It's because this
Uh,
is recorded. But once again, please comment so that Ashley, especially Ashley, can go back in and respond. And if anybody, I mean, at this point, Ashley, like, are you still good with people reaching out to
oh
you?
yeah,
Everything
absolutely. I
good? Okay,
welcome it for sure. Yeah.
okay,
It's
all
really
right.
been, like I said, it's really been amazing to see so many people that I've known over the course of the 20 some odd years. I'll leave it at 20 some odd years in the industry to just to reach out and text and call. I got so many of those like, I don't know this number. It's not in my phone that have texted from the post that have been like, wow, we haven't talked in so long. I'm glad you're doing well. So it's been,
Yeah.
and again, just to share like the story itself, how I came about. I mean, I probably, if I didn't have that checkup, I would have just pushed it off and just said, okay, it's no big deal until it could have gotten much worse. So
No, and
listen to
like,
your body.
and
Yeah.
you might be help. Yeah, there might be someone that might not be experiencing the same symptoms as you, but symptoms that are like a little bit off. Go
Yeah.
see your doctor. Just go get that checkup. Like, better
Yeah.
safe than sorry. Like, seriously. So you never know how you're affecting people in that way. Just right now,
Yeah.
which is incredible. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thanks
All
again.
right.
Love
Thanks
you.
so much.
And stay on, because a lot of times when we end, the person just jumps off.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'll stay on.
All right. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. And I will see you guys live next week. I don't know who my guest is yet, but
All
I'll
right. Good
figure
times.
it out.
All right. Take care.